Hi, everyone, and we are back with Josefine Meets. And today I have the amazing James Newell as a guest, who is a sales coach. Do you call yourself a sales coach, or what do
I
you call yourself?
call myself a consultant more than a coach. I find the word coach has far too much baggage, so I'm more of a consultant than a coach.
Yeah, but so we connected because we met in a challenge where the question was why you were even in that challenge, because it was a video challenge and you do videos all day long, put them out there. You have published 4 books. 3 of them are sales books. 1 is a personal development book. You have almost 450 LinkedIn recommendations. I mean, like, holy cow, just that is an achievement. But James, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. It took me 5 years to get those recommendations, I just want to point out. So the easiest way to explain what I do is funny. I was talking to my kids about this about 18 months ago. And they said, basically, I teach people how to sell. I'm like a teacher, but I teach grown-ups how to sell. And for me, selling comes in 2 distinct parts. And I come across people all the time that have 2 really main problems when it comes to selling. They find it hard to articulate their offering, to actually explain what they do, answer basic questions and differentiate. And I call that clear sales message, which is a synonym for value proposition. And then we have selling confidence or selling behavior. What do you do? If this was a sales call now and I want to try and close you and talk money, how do I do that? So having those strategies and systems in place, when you're clear on what you're talking about and you're confident in how you move in a selling conversation, then you'll convert more and things will happen for you. So in a nutshell, that's kind of my methodology.
Yeah, and I have so much, I have so many questions, so many own comments, so many own experiences. I see we have a guest too. So please, everyone who shows up watching this live, please add your questions. I want this to be as interactive as possible, because now we have a sales pro right in front of us, so we can ask we can ask you anything we want and need, because no one, I was in corporate for 20 years. And even though we say I don't really need to sell, we did need to sell when we applied for the different jobs, but it then didn't feel like sales, right? And people often think of sales as very salesy and scary. I even have a friend, she's an entrepreneur, and she says, when my business is running, then the first person I'm going to hire, that is going to be a salesperson, because I don't want to do sales. But I don't think you started as a salesperson either. So bring us back a little bit. How did you end up as the pro as you are?
Oh, where should I start? Well, I was bored. No. So I kind of fell into a sales job. So it was 2006. I just got back from traveling. I was in my early 20s and I kind of fell into a sales role. And even at that point, I was like, are you sure? I'm not very good at selling. I had the hang-ups everybody else had about selling. And when I talk to my clients and students, I say, if you run a Google image search for salesman or saleswoman or sales team or sales anything, the collective visualizations of what come up, that's what we think about sales and selling. None of it's positive. So anyway, I fell into the role and I was trying to work out what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I was kind of thinking about business ideas and what I wanted to do. I was supposed to be in the role for 6 months. I was working for Daimler Mercedes-Benz as a key account manager, doing about 1 to 2,000 units, 1 to 2,000 cars a year, business to business transactions. Supposed to be there for 6 months. 12 years later, I was I was still there. Yeah, it was. It's very easy to say. It was a long 12 years. I had this really sad realization that you can become really good at something, but hate it. And I was deeply unfulfilled, deeply unhappy, but very good at what I was doing because of my reputation. I want to do a good job, etc. And I was talking to somebody and said, "Look, I'm dying to start my own business, get out there, but I don't know what to do." And they point out the obvious to me, and I see it now, but at the time I didn't see it. And they said, "You're good at selling. Just teach people how to sell." It's like, but I'm not a salesperson. How do I do it? So they said, "Look, why don't you start just testing with people for free?" Which I now know is called product market fit. And I started working with some people for free. And my first question would always be, "So tell me about your business." And that's for most people, you can trip them up because either they give you too short an explanation, too long. They just can't answer respectfully, they can't answer basic buyer questions. What do you do? How does it work? Why should I choose you? Wow, you're expensive. Can't I do this myself, etc. And I realized that was the niche. That was the thing. So as experienced as I was in sales and selling from my corporate background, When it came to selling myself and it was me and my business, I kind of had to start again, really, and relearn lots of things. And it was a very kind of, you're emotionally invested in it, because if somebody rejected my offer, they were rejecting me. They weren't rejecting Daimler and Mercedes Benz kind of thing. So I had to get through all of that, which lots of people do when they go from corporate to working for
Yeah.
themselves. Excuse me. And I started to break down sales and selling basically and just paint by numbers. I wanted to have a very simple methodology that anybody could follow. You say, look, you want to convert more? Here's how you do it. You want to follow up? Here's how to do it. And just take all the classic issues people have and provide actionable, practical strategies to do it. Because I really believe that most things are just principle based. There's a certain number of permutations of things that can happen. If we're ready for them and we know about them, it's easier. And just to take that sting out of selling, because people get so emotionally caught up in rejection, like I used to, asking for the business, talking about money, and thinking that they have to push and convince and persuade and all this nonsense, which you really don't. So create that methodology, and then from there, I started working with people, and word got around, and it went from strength to strength. I make it sound really easy, don't I? But it was a lot of hard work. I've learned a lot along the way, I can tell you for sure.
Yeah, and I guess you probably also had to unlearn a couple of things because you had been in a sales role
Yeah.
where you sold cars, and cars is kind of like it's a physical product, and
Mm,
Mercedes Benz is also like a high-end brand, and it's like
mm,
you get this. It's also the image of driving a Mercedes or driving a Volvo, whatever it might be. But when you then sell sales, obviously you can get some kind of like reactions or testimonials, or I increased my sales by blah 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 by working with James. But I guess there were some things you had to unlearn
yeah.
while you were when you transitioned into that new role.
Well, there are things I had to unlearn, not least the employee mindset of like, I
Oh
felt
yeah.
like I had to work 9 till 5, and I'd sit religiously at my desk, and at 5 o'clock, like, well, that's me for the day kind of thing. It was ridiculous. I was so institutionalized into this mindset. One of the first things that I realized, and it became kind of pivotal to my teaching, is kind of one of the first stumbling blocks that people have. And it's certainly what I had, which is most of us are actually selling the wrong thing. We focus on the wrong thing. We take this approach of almost like, welcome to McDonald's. Can I take your order? Obviously, you know what you want. You just need to pick. There we go. Rather than actually really connecting to the problems and challenges your clients face, and then overlaying your solution on the top. So I call this selling the destination, not the journey. So in Mercedes, it's fairly straightforward. It's like order taking, right? Somebody wants a Mercedes, and we were doing larger transaction, of course, but you want this many units, we'll do a deal. There we go. I don't really need to tell you what's cool about Mercedes. You're going to buy them. There we go. But when it came to clear sales message and other things, I hate to use the word convince, but I had to convince people, or at least educate them as to where the value was and what they needed it for. And I realized that most people lack confidence when it comes to selling. So if I theme my communication around confidence and being in control and being able to affect many more things, etc., rather than just being overwhelmed by selling, that's really what they're buying. So I theme my
Hmm.
conversation around that, and that just happens to be called a clear sales message. So the analogy I usually use is airline adverts. When you see an airline advert, they very rarely have a plane or a plane seat actually in them. What they have is a picture of a destination, New York, Eiffel Tower, whatever it happens to be. The airlines know that if they change the syntax, which is a fancy word for the ordering, so the syntax, the ordering of what they talk about, if they just front load that with exciting holiday rather than boring plane seat, you're more likely,
Narrow,
yeah,
bad food.
you're more likely to be interested, right? Do you want a
Yeah.
holiday? I think it's like 3 years to the day since the pandemic was announced in the UK or whatever. So it's like, it's been an exhausting 3 years. You're tired, you're fed up. You need a holiday and relax. Here's Australia and the beach and the sunshine. Isn't this wonderful? Versus, would you like a plane seat? Totally different proposition. So nobody
Yeah.
wants a plane seat. Everybody wants a holiday. And in this kind of theoretical conversation, sounds really easy peasy and super straightforward. But if you look at your own website, not you necessarily, look at your own website and what you're actually selling, you're probably selling the plane seat without realizing it. And this is the problem lots of people have. We focus on the boring things first rather than what our
Yeah.
buyers actually want. That's the biggest kind of learning I had right at the start back in 2018 when I began.
And I actually told my husband this the other day. He's in sales too, by the way, and he also came into this situation where he said, "Oh, I don't want to do sales anymore. I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a salesperson." Now he's back into sales, and I think he's really loving it because he's realized it's actually not about the sales per se, it's about relationship building. And that is what he's really good at and really great at. But I said to him, I think I have to talk about more about, as you say, the destination, about what is the destination. And then I was like, but here I am sitting in my home office day in and day out. I need to get out more so that people see what's possible when you have like a freer lifestyle. Because I was also like, if I'm not at my desk at 8 o'clock, I've failed a little bit. So it's really difficult to switch out of that mindset and to see all the possibilities that we have and not get stuck into the details.
Absolutely.
So I know that you are working on a really, really cool product. And would you like to, I don't know if you want to talk about it because it's kind of just starting, but because I think that feeds very well into what I'm doing, because I think you've seen a need and then you think about, okay, so how can I scale this? So can you take us a little bit to your thought process about, okay, so I've seen a need, I think I can scale this, a little bit about that process, how you see that.
So I'll take you back to when I started Clear Sales Message. So in 2018, when I left my full-time job, my last real job, and went full-time into doing this. It was an awful job, but it was a real job, I guess. And I started doing this. It's because I responded to a market need. I realized that people find it very difficult to articulate their offering. And I kind of intrinsically knew if I gave it an explanatory name, so Clear Sales Message, even if you've never met me before, you should be able to guess at what you think I'm doing, and you should be right, or at least in the ballpark. If I had an abstract name, we wouldn't be anywhere, right? So it has to have a good name, a fixed deliverable. So these are very defined deliverables you're going to get, and a fixed price. So it's not, £100 an hour. Lord knows how long this is going to take. It was fixed deliverable, fixed price, nice name, and it was completely tailored to what the buyers want. And funnily enough, I posted about something like this on LinkedIn today, where most people are going to a sales call with the wrong attitude. It's how can I help you? Really, you need to start with, well, let's see if I can help you.
Yeah.
So what's the challenge that you've got? Tell me about that. Okay. We'll talk about that. Okay. So you've said this about, okay, I do this, and this might be able to help that. How does that sound to you? So it's listening to the problems that your buyers have, challenges they face, and only then overlaying what you do onto that. Where people generally go wrong is they start with, here's how I can help you. Aren't I brilliant? Would you like to buy what I have? And there isn't that kind of nice connection and that journey, but they feel like they have to behave in that way. Because if I don't close you on this call, I failed and you've won, and all this kind of pressured, silly nonsense that we've seen in the films that we think is real, but it's absolutely not. In 12 years, I did £600 million worth of sales. I never missed a single target in the 12 years. I worried about every single month, I can assure you. I was never cocky about it, but I worried about every month, but I still did it. But I did not push or convince or persuade anybody. I realized that selling is about good communication. It's a conversation with money at the end. I ask you what your challenge is or what you're looking for. I overlay what I have. There we go. So to answer your question, that's how Clear Sales Message started. You have to be very careful. I give like 4-hour seminars on selling. It'll go dark outside by the time I stop talking.
Yeah, I have a podcast recording where I'm the guest later on.
So the new product, to actually answer your question, is a recognition of that. So there's kind of three main things that people have when it comes to selling, which is they don't know what to say, which is a Clear Sales Message. They don't know what to do, which is like the daily work for the daily action planning, I call a Clear Sales process. And they don't know how to behave. So they don't know how to commercialize a conversation, follow up, etc., which I call selling confidence. So the program I'm working on has those three elements. It will help you know what to say, what to do, and how to do it, because most people struggle with one or all of those things to a varying degree.
Yeah, and I when I first kicked off my so I moved through kind of a process of changing ideal client, where I became really excited about the ideal client, and we created an offer, and we were super excited about that offer, and we kicked it off, and we did some sales, and super excited. And then I had a medical challenge which forced me to take a break. And during this break, I started doubting everything. I doubt the effectiveness of my program. I doubted myself. I doubted whether the leads were coming in, whether I thought they were crap, the leads, so that whole kind of like self-doubt, then it
Mm.
took, I would say, almost a year to get out of that whole kind of like, inner circles. I think that the support and the service that you are bringing is so needed, just for ourselves to get, to dare show up, and to dare,
Mm.
because if we don't dare to show up, we can't really help anyone.
That's right. And we try and keep ourselves safe by not putting us in ourselves in situations
Hmm.
which we're not comfortable in. So we avoid cold emails, cold DMs, sales calls, talking about money. One of the classic ones is we'd have it, if this was a sales call, we'd talk, 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 talk. I wouldn't tell you what I charge. I would say, I'm going to send you a proposal and I'll send it to you tomorrow or later today. And the first thing you do is you ignore everything, you just scroll to the bottom right, look at what I'm going to charge, and
Yeah.
then you'll decide if I'm expensive or not. And this is a real classic one for why people get ghosted, because money is not spoken about until after the event and it's kind of separated from the deliverable, and it's a
Mm,
problem. And we only do that because we're nervous talking about money, because we've got
mm,
so many hang-ups about it. There's,
mm,
there's lots of kind of psychological things at play, but part of my job is just to get people to just put themselves out there and try and remove the emotion from the situation and things kind of being expensive. So we don't like to talk about money because we might consider something as expensive, but your opinion doesn't matter. Respectfully, it's the price is the price is the price, right? Do you think the people at the Apple store, when they say our new mouse is £25,000, whatever it is, they don't care, do they? That's the price. Do you want it or not? They don't have any issue with that, and you
yeah.
can feel that. Whereas if you're emotionally involved in it, we can feel that you're like, oh, it's not cheap. It's 25,000, and it just gets too clouded, too clouded.
Yeah, there is a Tiffany paperclip.
The
That's
classic, yeah.
exactly, and that paperclip, I think it's $2,500. A paperclip, maybe it's a
Yeah.
bookmark, but still, it's 2,500.
It's not a car, is it? Let's be honest.
Exactly, not a car, but would be a very cheap car for 2,500. But still, it has the same functionality as a
Yeah,
product that probably costs a couple of cents or whatever. So it's like different, but it has a market. It has there, it has
100%.
a need probably for it. Maybe not a need, but someone wants it. So I mean, there is a market for everyone.
I think the only people buy that paperclip say, this is that paperclip. You've probably heard of this. That's it, right? It's not even about holding paper together anymore, is it? It's
No,
stationary snobbery.
exactly. I see we have someone here. I don't know who it is, but if you have any question, please feel free to add a chat so that we can oh, no, yeah, so that we can bring it up, because that way we can help you. If you're watching this as a replay, please add #replay so that I can, if it's in the Facebook group, that I can pick it up and forward it to James. If it's on LinkedIn, he will see it because he is in this event anyways.
And make the most of me. I can
Make
answer
them
it.
exactly.
Any question you've got, he says, pushing the bar up. Any question you've got around selling, we can deal with it.
Depend. I had one where I said we will answer any question you have. Well, maybe not everyone.
Yeah,
Not
yeah, yeah. In my specialist subject. That's it.
Exactly. I lost my thread a little bit, but talking about sales,
Mhm.
if someone really struggles, they're a new entrepreneur or they're starting their business, just what would be the first thing that you would suggest that they would do?
There's a couple of things. The first one is to actually, obviously, I'm super biased, right? But to consider your messaging and what you're actually saying, because most people say the wrong things. So to define and consider, what is that destination? What are your buyers really buying? Because it's not the $2,500 paperclip, it's the bragging rights of having the paperclip kind of thing. So understand what
Mm,
people are really buying so you know what to say to connect with them. And that's not to manipulate them to say what they want to hear, but it's to talk about the things that they're going to care about and it's relevant to them. That'd be the first thing. And the second thing would be to completely detach from any outcome. So don't worry about conversion, focus on conversation. If you've never really sold anything to anybody before, you've just got to get your reps in and get talking to people. So the trouble is, people have put so much pressure on themselves on their first calls. Like, not only am I nervous about speaking, but if I don't sell, then I failed. And it's all this pressure.
mm,
Forget about it. Focus
mm,
on one of the reframes I have in some of my programs is be a spokesperson, not a salesperson. So focus on communication first of all. Have you really understood what the buyer needs? Have you really? Ask some good questions and then worry about selling to them after. So focus on the communication piece first. And if you get really stuck and you don't even know how to start a call or a DM or whatever, asking about somebody's problems is one of the best things you can possibly. Tell me about the challenge that you're facing. Tell me the problem that you're facing, and I'll see if I can help you and then how I can help you. But if you get people to tell you what their challenges are, first of all, from there you can mold the conversation. So those, I mean, there's loads of different things we could do, but those are kind of the key starting ones. But being really clear on your offer, what are people really buying? And another good one is, what's the problem that you actually solve? So what is the problem that you actually, or problems that you actually solve? Because this is how we connect with people. So one of my articulations for selling, I've got quite a few, as you can tell, is that selling is about really good communication and finding a connection point. And it's only when you connect with people that things start to happen. So one of the things we can do is talk about the problems you solve. For me, with Clear Sales Message, there's 3 distinct problems that I solve. Simplifying complex offerings, anything that's new, sophisticated, technical, or whatever, it needs a clear sales message. Differentiating in a crowded marketplace where everybody does the same thing. How do we get you to stand out? And then the final one is justifying the price of a high ticket, or like the paperclip, or an intangible offering. How do we get people to see the value in what you do? And when I talk about those 3 things in slightly more contextual detail, that's when people either switch on to go, oh my God, I'm number 2, I need that help, or switch off and go, I don't need any of those, which is fine. I'm trying to polarize people as quickly as possible in the politest possible way. So think about the problems that you solve and how you can define those. It will do wonders for your confidence and for connecting with people in conversation.
I have one more question, actually, because it just popped in my mind. Because when I started out, I thought I should serve. I call them my trigger clients, mainly women who are in the corporate world, who are a little bit lost. And I had a workshop where I helped them, and then you move into kind of like the sales message. And I sat there and I realized, these are not my people. I don't. They drain me. They don't, energize me. Is that something that you think is important, or to have the right person that energizes, or the right ideal client from an energy perspective? Or do you think, if you can help them, you can help them?
I'm kind of split down the middle, but the reason I do what I do, so excuse me, I wanted to start my own business because I wanted to find my place in the world. It wasn't about making money necessarily, although I like to eat 3 times a day, live in a house, but I wanted to focus first of all on happiness and finding what I love to do. And because of that, I'm very kind of enthusiastic about what I do, very committed to it, and I do well, and I meet like-minded people. So I think that I'm kind of half and half in your question. You have to have love for what you do and love for your clients. You're going to come across some people that maybe you don't gel with, but you can still help. It's your call as to whether or not you're going to entertain that, particularly if it's your own business, because some people can be quite draining. But if you're confident you can deliver the outcome, then I would say push and go for it, because then you can help that person. And you're not going to get along with everybody just by definition, right? It's just the way the world works. But the ideal is we work with people that we like and we respect, and they respect us, and we help solve their problems and do whatever we need to do for them.
Yeah, definitely agree. And I think that was a good final remark. If we have,
like my politician's answer.
If we have, exactly. Don't worry. I was thinking, maybe I shouldn't have said that now that we're streaming too. But
anyway, vote for James.
James for president. Do we have any comments? We haven't received any comments yet so far, but if we have any comments, please add them now, because we are going to wrap this up. James, how can people connect with you?
Excuse me. Best place.
I have one more question before.
Okay, go for
it. DMs.
Direct messages, DMs, yes.
Exactly. Direct messages, DMs. People say you sell in the DMs nowadays. I have one person said, I was on Starbucks and I sold it made 50K in my DMs while I ordered my coffee. Things like that. I find it very difficult in DMs to keep the discussion going, because I don't want to. I find it difficult to say, "Oh, what is your problem or what is your challenge?" Because I
What's your
find that a little
problem?
bit exactly. But I find that a little bit. When people ask me that question, I was like, no, don't go. Or for how long have you been a coach? Those questions
It's
where you just
obvious. Yeah.
exactly. It's so obvious they
We
just
know where
want to
this is
sell
going.
me. Yeah,
Mm.
exactly.
So with DMs, and by the way, I don't know if you're familiar with lying, but I don't think anybody's selling £50,000 of stuff in Starbucks in the DMs, right?
That's
I,
probably not, but it's more
I,
like, oh, they ruin they
but
ruin
this is the other thing.
everything.
All the
Yeah,
gurus and the Lambos and the six figure and this and that, it just makes you feel like an absolute failure. But most of the stuff is false anyway. There's somebody I follow at the moment on social media. They're talking about 100 grand months. They've done 100 grand months, which is great in and of itself. But they're talking about it, they're twisting the truth, saying it's consistent when it's not. And that doesn't sit well with me at all, particularly
yeah,
because I can see what you're doing and I don't even really know you. I've just seen you through social media kind of thing. So
exactly.
the question, going back to the question about DMs, really, we need to get people out of the DMs into a conversation, because that's when we can actually have the kind of energy and interaction that we have here. But you've got to do it in a way that's comfortable. So what you have to remember is buyers want details, non-buyers want space. Buyers want details, non-buyers want space. So if you're talking to somebody and you're having to kind of drag it out of them, or they're being a bit reluctant to respond, don't be afraid just to park that and move on. I have a mantra in my program, which is don't chase them, replace them. So don't put your energy into just trying to follow people up, because James said I got to do it 137 and a half times. Don't worry about that. Use your intelligence and make a call on it. If somebody's not really forthcoming, or they're taking long to reply or not at all, just leave them there. Put the energy into finding more people. We need to get them talking about their challenges, but we need to do it in that non-salesy kind of, so how long have you been a coach? Tell me about clear sales. My favorite one is on LinkedIn, right? Tell me what you do. It's like, we're on LinkedIn. My
Yeah, exactly.
profile tells you what I do. Why should I have to? There we go. So you
Or
need to,
even on Facebook, you find all my links on Facebook. If you would be
yeah.
really interested, you could just click one of them and you would see it, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so what is your link for your YouTube channel? You're like, it's there. If you'd have bothered to look, it's there. So when you're talking to people, you just need to get them to a stage where basically we won't get into like the semantics of the actual language, but we just want to talk about the things that are what do you think's holding you back? What are you trying to do? What do you think's holding them back? And how important is that to you? That's it. That's essentially the conversation we're having. And then if they're responsive to that and they're telling you, oh, I think it's this, I think it's that, say, well, I could potentially help with this. If you'd like to book a call, a free call, we could have a chat, whatever your next step happens to be. But we do it like that. But there's no pressure. And it's all very much, if you would like, it's your decision. When I'm selling to people, I have this thing which I call the pushback. So even at the end of a pitch, I'd say, look, I'd love to work with you and I'm very confident I can help you. But you don't have to buy from me. You can buy from whoever you choose. But obviously, based on the conversation we've had, you definitely need a little bit of help there, blah, blah, blah. How does that sound to you? So we just remind people they're in control, because they are, but it's much more conducive to, so you probably wonder what I charge, and I'm desperately trying to push you down something and take the control away from you. Get people out of the DMs into phone calls where possible. But if they're not being responsive, remember, buyers want details, non-buyers want space. Use your kind of judgment. If you're not getting too much of a response, just park them, find more people. Don't chase them, replace them.
I think this was super, super duper helpful. So now, James, how can people connect with you? They find you on LinkedIn and they should send you a DM. But what should they say?
DM the word. No, just connect with me on LinkedIn. So James Newell, Newell. Connect with me there, or just follow me. I've got lots of posts, lots of articles, etc. If you think I can help you with the challenges you're facing, just DM me. There's no special words. You can make up a special magical word if you want, but just DM me with the challenge you're facing, the question that you've got. If it's a question based off the back of this, I'll just answer it for you in the DMs. Or I've got an awful lot of free stuff. I could probably link you out to something that's going to help you, but not all problems are solved with just here's a tip and here's a link, right? So if you want a little bit more attention, then we can have a chat and see if I can help you and then how I can help you afterwards.
Yeah, and if they would be interested in your new offer that will fairly soon be published.
Yeah.
They could DM you Starbucks and you would know what they want.
That's right. Yeah. DM me the word Starbucks. That's right. Yeah. 50K Starbucks DM. If you email me that, you'll get a 25% discount. Oh, yeah.
Don't say that. Don't say that, because that's not how you make 50K Starbucks,
That's right.
So, but they might make 50K at Starbucks if they join your program. So thank you so much, James. It's been a pleasure having you as a guest. I have a free workshop coming up next week where we're actually going to build our audience. We're going to focus on making the right audience, not just any audience, because James also said it in the beginning somehow. We need to get more people, more eyes. We can't just, settle for the ones if they're not interested. We need to continue growing, but we need to grow the right people, not just any people. So that is what we're focusing on next week. I will add the link so that you can look it up, register if you want to. It's yes, I will present my offer in that workshop, but I'm not forcing anyone. I'm following James's advice to invite to conversations and not focus on conversion. So thank you so much, James, for being my guest today.
My pleasure.